Hi, I'm talking about the assessment provisions under the GST law, which were introduced or proposed yesterday in the Union Budget. The GST law has been in force for now 7 years, and litigation has been growing slowly but steadily. One of the issues that has been facing taxpayer and the tax department alike is the application of the correct and the relevant provision for the assessment or for the raising of a demand. So whether it should be under section 73, which deals with cases not involving fraud, suppression, willful misstatement, or the section 74, which involves cases of fraud, suppression and willful misstatement, there has been a conundrum as to which of the provisions should apply, in what circumstances they should apply, and invariably the tax department raised demands under section 74 in more cases than they did in the case under section 73. Now, the 53rd GST Council, which meeting was held sometime last month, has in fact recommended a new provision in terms of section 74, which was proposed yesterday in the finance bill. This section 74 is going to comprehensively house both the provisions of section 73 and section 74, and these deal with the assessment, i.e. the demand which has to be created for short levy, non-levy, erroneous refunds, and they will all be comprehensively housed now in section 74A. Now, what it does is that it does away with 11 subsections of section 73, 11 subsections of section 74, and now in a comprehensive section 74A with 12 subsections and 2 explanations, the entire provision and code will be contained therein. The key change and the real change that has been proposed in this new section is that the timeline for issuing of a show cause notice as well as for the passing of order in the context of erstwhile section 73 has been increased, whereas in the context of erstwhile section 74 has been reduced. So for section 73 demands which do not involve fraud, suppression and willful misstatement, the timeline to issue the show cause notice was 33 months and an order had to be passed within 3 months. So that was 36 months from the date of the annual return when it was due. Whereas for section 74, the timeline was 54 months to issue a show cause notice and then 60 months from the annual return date to pass an order and raise and confirm the demand. Now, these are going to change in this way, and there's only one sort of timeline which has been prescribed. So we have 42 months from the due date of the annual return to issue the show cause notice and 54 months from the date of the annual return to issue and pass the order that is to be made for assessment. There is a ability for the proper officer to seek an extension and pass an order within another 6 months, so 60 months in total from the annual return date. In the event they are unable to pass an order for whatever reason, of course, this will require the permission of the superior authorities in the tax hierarchy, and only after their approval and written approval will this be possible. Now, as I mentioned, this in fact will sort of simplify the code for the purposes of assessment. The arguments that taxpayers were usually taking in respect of fraud, suppression, or in case of limitation will now all sort of simplify into being points raised either in respect of the timeline being met or it being exceeded. The arguments or the submissions on fraud, suppression, misstatement will be separately housed and effectively de-linked from the limitation period. Now, most of the other sort of aspects of the provisions in 73-74 have been kept intact. So you pay 10% penalty if it's a non-fraud case and 100% penalty if it is a case involving malefides, and various other sort of aspects of those two provisions are comprehensively housed. We have one other small change, which is that after the issuance of a show cause notice, if the amount is to be paid within 60 days, then there is going to be no penalty. The previous timeline was 30 days. The overall sort of position on this is and that's a sort of welcome aspect, is that there is a definitive timeline for passing of orders. It was a bane of the earlier tax regime, whether under the Central Excise Law or concerning the Finance Act or even otherwise. There were orders which were not passed for years on end, and this languishing sort of demands which were created under various show cause notices continued to sort of hold up the tax department and did not sort of find a eventual outcome. And now with this GST law provision, there is a closure that will be achieved definitively, and that's something that will be welcome. Another sort of change, and when I say another change, it means it's a dramatic overhaul from the fact that in the erstwhile regime, whether Central Excise or Finance Act for service tax or even some state laws, there was a clear demarcation for the issues concerning fraud and suppression and other malified actions. That involved, therefore, a different timeline. Going forwards, those are all collapsed into a singular provision, and those aspects will no longer be relevant in terms of at least the timeline and the limitation period that is to be sort of looked at for the purposes of raising and confirming demands. Thank you.